Hello and welcome to Read.Watch.Play, the show about comic books, superheroes, and Heroclix. And as you can see, my co-host for the evening is not here, but fret not. We're actually going to be talking with Howard Brock, the 2017 Heroclix World Champion. So, without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to that interview, and we hope you enjoy. Welcome back, guys. We are here with the 2017 Heroclix World Champion, Howard Brock. Welcome, Howard. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's been about a little over a week now since you became the 2017 Heroclix World Champion, and you're also a member of the Heroclix Team World Champions along with Warren Jin. Am I saying that right?
You said it exactly right.
Great. And your son, Easton. So I guess my first question is it difficult for you to navigate inside your house with all of the prize support that you took home?
Well, no, but it's not because we didn't take a lot home. The harder thing was getting it home. We loaded up a few cars, and Easton was not able to take his usual nap in the back seat. Come home, but I have a big house, and we have part of our house, part of a room is set up for our online eBay business. So we're able to truck it up there, and we had a lot of stuff, though. I got to tell you, we had a lot of stuff. Give you an example of just one example. When we left here, one of the things that we didn't have was a Chase Hawkeye. We did not have that. That's one of the reasons on my team build we didn't have any. But I didn't play a Chase Hawkeye. Easton borrowed one and played it on his, but I didn't have one. But we got 6 of them now.
Nice. So before we dive into the world's experience that you had and the details of your team, can you tell us a little bit about you and how and when you got into Heroclix?
Certainly. It's probably my favorite story. This would have been when Easton was 7 years old. He's 20 now, so we're talking 13 years ago and probably a few months. We had not played Heroclix. I was in Books A Million, where I'm from Huntsville, Alabama, so I was in the local Books A Million store. And I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that, but most people are familiar with Books A Million. And they always got this center aisle where they put a bunch of stuff. Sometimes they're games and old books, stuff for sale, just a big collaboration of things. And I was walking through there, and there was an Infinity Challenge starter set with Wolverine on the front, where you could see him. And being an avid comic book reader when I was a kid, I stopped. And like, what is this? And I looked, and I'm like, oh my God, how in the hell did they do this? How did they make these little figures look just like I was amazed that they were able to make something that size. And then I read, and I saw that it was a game too, and it was a collectible game. And I'm like, man, this looks like a lot of fun. So I didn't buy anything that time, but I came back a week later with my sons. I was wanting to buy a book, and I had 2 sons, still have 2 sons, Easton being the youngest and Tanner the oldest. And I told them each one that they could buy something in the store. And I said, you might want to go look at this. This looks like it's something pretty cool. And I don't even remember which one of them picked it out, but one of them chose it. And we came home that night and opened it up, and we began playing. And we kept playing, and we kept playing. And the next day, I went back. They had some boosters there, and I bought the boosters. I bought a couple boosters, came home, added them into the pile. And what we would do back then is I had a friend that would play too, and there's 4 of us, and we would do 2-on-2 matches, and we would play on the table. Well, we kept adding to it, and I kept going back, and pretty soon there was nothing left at Books A Million. And so we had to seek our figures somewhere else. Went online, found that our local comic book store carried them, and that's how we got into Heroclix.
Wow. So anything that you can tell us about you that's non-Clicks related?
I'm an avid Alabama fan. I'm really kind of I'm a nerd, but I'm very big into sports, and I played sports all my life. I used to before I did this, I was a competitive softball player that traveled. We traveled all over the country.
Wow.
And I was a good baseball player coming out of high school. I was recruited by by a Mormon church of all things down in South Alabama because one of my friends was a Mormon. That year, back then I was a lot quicker. I played left field, and we finished third in the Nationals that year. The first time I ever started playing ball, and then that just carried on, and from that point on, and I played ball all my life. We just traveled and played. So that's something that nobody knows. I gave that up a few years ago.
Wow.
And in a way, Heroclix has taken that competitive spot.
Do you find that any sort of your mental processes or the way that you would approach sports in the past, does that help you in Heroclix at all when you're preparing for competitions?
What I found out, just in the major tournaments, it's the same way. There's a little bit of nervousness before both of them. The way I've learned to overcome that is by being there. Once you start playing, whether I was playing ball or whether I was playing Heroclix, once I do either one, I'm able to shut everything out. I know, for example, in my final game, people were telling me there was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of commotion, people talking, people saying things and stuff like that. I heard none of it. I was totally focused on the game. I have no idea what was going on around me, how many people were there until I looked up. Totally focused on the game. And sports is the same way. When you are on the field, whether you're playing football, whether you're playing baseball, you tune everything out. You're totally focused on the game.
Okay. So now you're also the director of the ROC board. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that is the Realms Open Championship. Can you tell us what the ROC is for our viewers that may not know, and how did that come into existence?
Yeah, that's a good story. Also, back when WizKids died, and we didn't have Heroclix for a few years, there were places throughout the country, and Realms kept playing the game, and we played with what we had. A lot of us did. Realms was still a huge hub, which was one of the reasons why WizKids came back and Heroclix came back, because they had an active community that continued to play the game. Well, my local con at that time was Dragon Con, and I used to go to Dragon Con every single year. I missed it the last 2 years because I had to give up something because of the Rock Cup in October. But I gave that up. But I used to go to Dragon Con every single year and loved it. It's a great con. Through that time, Heroclix is important to me. And what I did is I helped support the Heroclix community at Dragon Con. And what I did is I gave a lot of stuff. I gave a lot of my prizes for prizes there, and I gave a lot of my, and I would even buy stuff later on. But for like 2 or 3 years, I would show up with half a truckload of prizes. I remember the guys coming down with carts, and we would go and give prizes up. So that I supported that. And then when WizKids came back, they went to the guys that were running Dragon Con. There was a guy named Brian Stewart who was the main contact there, and you had Charlie, and I can't remember what Charlie's last name is, and also Terry. They all ran Dragon Con, and what they would do is they went to HC Rims and asked HC Rims. Tony lives in Atlanta. They asked him, and Tony's the owner of HC Rims for people that don't know what I'm talking about, but they asked him to sponsor it, and he came in as a sponsor and put up the money and some prizing and paid for everything, and HC Rims became a sponsor of Dragon Con in the events. And they set up this deal where you played 5 events and you got to be qualified. You could play in a final championship. So it was a big deal. Scott Crampton started coming every year. Patrick started coming every year. And then there was a hub of us, and we kept talking about having I don't want to say a professional circuit, but something that's more like Magic, because there wasn't enough play out there. There's not enough play for competitive players throughout the country, and we're watching all these Magic tournaments go on everywhere, and it's like, dang, man, it'd be nice if we could just play somewhere besides our venue, that we could, because when you're at your venue, you tend to sometimes tone it down a little bit, and you tend to try to make tournaments that aren't so competitive so that everybody's involved. And we wanted to go and play and just and do our thing, because we enjoyed playing competitively, and we enjoyed trying to create teams to mix into the meta. So that was our thing, that's what our thinking was, and we were looking at Magic that was already doing that, and we said, why can't we do that? So literally, we went after Dragon Con. I think this is about 5 or 6 years ago. We went to eat somewhere, and I don't even know where we went to eat, but it was like a little burger joint or something. And it was Patrick, myself, Charlie, Brian, and Tony, all met and had dinner. And I took notes why we took dinner, what we wanted to do. And somehow, and then at that point, we reached out to Justin at WizKids and told him what we were doing, and he agreed to provide prize support for our events. Now, at that time, we were only going to run like 5 events with the championship culminating at Dragon Con, and we had all those events slated as regionals, and that was the first year that we did this.
And I'm sorry, what year was that?
Say again?
What year was that?
I want to say it was 6 years ago. It might be 5 years ago. Let's see, we've had the Rock Cup 2 years. This is our 3rd year for the Rock Cup coming up. And then I think we had 2 championships, maybe 3 at Dragon Con. So I'm going to say it's about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So then when all that came up, we formed a little board, and we all talked and everything, but nobody was doing anything. Nobody was like taking the bull by the horns. And I'm like, we got the prizing set up. We can do the events. Somebody's got to do this. Anyway, that's how I became ROC director. I had the time and the love for the game to do it, and I just kind of started doing it. And I took and the guys rallied behind me, and we started making rules, and we started making tournaments, and the next year we just kept expanding it. The next thing that happened is the following year we wanted to do it again, and we wanted to expand upon it. And it's kind of weird how all this happened, but Justin backed out. He said he couldn't do it. He gave us various reasons. Some of those have been cited on Realms and everything else, but it was various reasons. One, that they were looking at doing things on their own. Mm-hmm. 2, the licensing, so on and so forth. Just a bunch of different reasons. And it was also very wishy-washy there for a while. And what I mean by that is 1 minute he was, 1 minute he wasn't, 1 minute he was, 1 minute he wasn't. And all the way to the very end, when we were at Gen Con at the World Championship, and we're talking to Justin one-on-one, and he finally said no. And at that moment, Tony was also at Gen Con, and he said, TCG players here, they run Magic events. I just saw them. They're interested in maybe doing something. So I went over there to their booth, and the owner, president of TCG Player, and the guy that runs TCG Player, that Chetty
Yep.
and Ray were there, and great guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to sit down and talk to them, and I'm looking, and we're talking. I'm telling them the problem that we got on pricing, that we can buy some things, but we need to create our own. What can we do? And we're just sitting there, and we're just talking and everything. And I look down, and I see a Magic play mat, and I'm like, "You guys make these? These are your prizes for Magic? Can you make maps? Can you make maps just like this?" And they go, "Yeah, we can do that." And I said, "Well, we need to get. That's what we need to do. If we make quality maps just like this, that for our events." People will want them. These people will want, and that's where the map idea came from. And then we started, and I said we can also make tokens. People like tokens, and we just kicked around some pricing. And Chatty stepped up and he says, "What?" I said, "To do this." He says, "What if you guys will commit to this?" He says, "What if I guarantee $15,000?" No matter what happens in your tournaments. If you run 5, 10 tournaments, I will guarantee $15,000 to be a partner of this. And that's where our relationship with TCG Player began.
Wow, that's amazing. And now, and what year was this that this relationship started?
We've had the Rock Cup. This will be the third year on our Rock Cup. Prior to that, I think we were at Dragon Con for 2 years with them. So I want to say it was 5 years ago.
Okay. Wow. So let's move into U.S. Nationals, Worlds. Now, did you play in the U.S. Nationals also?
I did.
And did you play the same team that you played in Worlds?
I did. In fact, I had the pleasure of playing the national champion and lost by 7 points to him.
Wow.
Now, what I will say is this: I created my team 2 weeks prior to going to Worlds. I mean, I had a base idea, but there was things that came out towards the end, and we can talk about that, not necessarily right now, but we can talk about the team itself in just a minute. But the point I'm trying to make is that we play tested at home. Of course, when you build a team, or at least when I build a team, I run it through my head. I run through what I'm looking to face, and I'm running how I can play it. You're doing that in your head, how you want the team to play. And we did some play testing at home. But my true play testing was during nationals. And I gained a lot of experience with my team playing at nationals, seeing what else was out there, developing some strategies to beat them, making some mistakes, thinking that I can do. Maybe I was slow playing a little bit more than I should in nationals. And the other thing that happened is this is the only thing that WizKids did wrong the whole weekend. And when I say that, I'm saying this is like a very, very minor thing. I've been going to World Championships for years, been going to big events for years, and this is by far the best event that they've ever run. They were on point. The judging was great. The time between rounds, the Swiss rounds, I have no complaints. I guess there's two things they did wrong. I wish they would have done scheduled the appreciation a little bit differently. That didn't affect me so much, but I think that it should have been scheduled at a better time.
Yeah.
But what happened is they scheduled 6 Swiss rounds on nationals, followed by a cut to the top 16. Wow. Well, they were running behind on time, or they were running behind on schedule, I guess is the better way to put it, and they speeded the last rounds up. The last round that I played was only 30 minutes. 30
Ooh.
minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. When you go from a 50-minute game to a 30-minute game, it's another game.
Yeah.
The last game that I was playing, I was winning, but I was losing, but I was winning, if that makes any sense. I had his whole team decimated, all on I was like 1 or 2 turns away from pretty much swiping his team. I had a full healthy. My team was fully health, but I'd lost some of my little figures. I had not. I was ready to call in Nick Fury and and make an action. And the game, I was going to win the game. The player I'm playing knew I was going to win the game. They called time, and with only 30 minutes of play, and that was the difference between me making the cut in nationals and not making the cut.
Wow.
So that's what happened in nationals, and but it was great for me because, like I said, I got to run my team, and I got to see things that I would be facing and how to get around them and mistakes. You know, it was great. Nationals created my world's run. It's the way I look at it.
Going into the weekend, going into last weekend, did you have a very good feeling about the weekend going in, or do you feel that luck was just on your side all weekend?
Well, I think that anytime that you go into Worlds, you should feel. I have not felt as I felt good about my team. I knew how I designed my team. I felt good about it. I've had teams in the past where I felt good about them too, and either sometimes you just face the wrong thing. Sometimes it's a dice roll. There's different things that go into it. Sometimes it is bad luck, but I felt good about my team the whole time. Even in the nationals, where I didn't qualify for nationals, I felt really, really good. All of my games were close. I felt like every single game I could have won. And so I felt like my team was performing. I felt like I wasn't performing because I wasn't as experienced with the team. I did not feel that way in Worlds. I felt really, really good at Worlds.
Okay.
So let's talk about the team. Go ahead and list the figures for us, and then if you want to tell us how you came to those figures, and then your strategy going into nationals, and then how that changed with your strategy going into Worlds.
What I did in designing my team 2 weeks prior, I sat down at the computer and just thought, and I started with Goblin King, and here's my thinking. I mean, I was thinking about the things that I had to worry about, and the things that I had to worry about was barrier, Faust, being attacked, so on and so forth, pulse wave, all those kind of things. And I've noticed over the last few years from playing and watching actually my son play, is that my son, look, there was often times where I'm like, he's getting the heck beat out of him, but he wasn't, because he had enough still on his force that he could still keep playing. His teams were resilient. You could take out things, but he was still in the game. And so I wanted to build a team that was resilient, that could take a hit, still play, and was hard to kill, and you never got too many points. So unless you take out the Goblin King on my team, which is nearly impossible, or that I'm going to make very hard for you to do, you have a problem, because as long as he's in the game and I got my call-ins, I'm in the fight. So I got Joker, who you have to do 18 clicks of damage to, providing I don't heal during that time period, to knock him out. You got Ironheart, who you might hit 5 or 6 times, and he could still possibly be, or she could possibly still be in the game. And if you do hit her and take her out, you only got 25 points. If you do hit Joker and take him out, you've only got 30 points. If you take my tank out, you got a whopping 8 points. If you take Adam out, you got 15 points. If you take Mercury out, you got 25 points. You could take my whole team out except for Goblin King, and I'm still in it. And that was the purpose of the team. And what I did with my team is there's a lot of different things. Everything was there for a purpose. The Atom, obviously, for retaliation, but also a great taxi. He could carry anybody and the tank. I had a lot of sidestep on my team, where the Atom could sidestep up and hand off to Joker, who sidestepped off and hand off to Ironheart, who sidestepped off and put the Pim tank in Goblin King's hand, who did a call in and shot with in the call in shot with the Pim tank. There was a lot of that kind of stuff going on in my team that people didn't really notice. Ironheart is a great carry figure. Lots of times, like I would face a Bizarro Green Arrow, which is aggravating because you're wanting to shoot something and it's all going to be trickled over to Bizarro Green Arrow. Well,
and his stop clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the manipulation that Bizarro Green Arrow can do, you can either the damage is going to be reduced or the attack can be reduced greatly. So you have to have a way to get around that. Well, when I got ready to attack, I would do my call in, and then Ironheart would carry. Ironheart has 7 movement and 2 sidestep. Okay, so she could carry. I'm sorry, 9 movement and 2 sidestep, but she could carry Joker. Up 7 spots, put Joker in, and then sidestep for a total of 9. Put Joker in front of her, giving you a total of 10. Then Joker could sidestep 2 more, so you literally could go 12 spaces from where you were. That usually enabled me to get on the back side of their team when I was attacking them, and I have 2 outwits in place. They both got outwit on their first style. So now I outwit Bizarro Green Arrow's ability to be able to manipulate reverse range combat expert, and now you can one-shot him, because if you can do 4 damage on the front, do 4 damage on Bizarro Green Arrow, then you do 4. You go to the stop click, and then you drop the tank, and the tank ignores the stop click, and Bizarro Green Arrow is no more.
Wow.
Boy,
So,
I really underestimated that tank.
So there was a lot of things like that. So when that's why I built the team the way I did. I built it to be resilient. A Joker and Ironheart oftentimes were standing by or in front of, because there's only 2 things that the Goblin that feared, and one was Nick Fury, and the other one was Pulse Wave. And so I never let anybody have a shot at a single target Pulse Wave. I never was single targeted Pulse Wave the whole week. I was never going to let you do it. And I always had something standing near the Goblin, where you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
All right, so now you bring in the symbiote. All right, the symbiote, everybody talks about I didn't run a resource, and I didn't. Well, the reason I didn't is I didn't think I needed it. I thought the Goblin King being able to pick 2 powers and plus have the symbiote on there adding more powers. Okay, so you got plasticity, so you're protected from direct hypersonic speed. You have shape change that's now coming from another source that can't be outwitted. So Nick Fury's the only thing you got to worry about there. But if you pick literally at times I had plasticity, shape change, super senses, impervious, and invincible, and probability, all in the Goblin King.
And with Power Cosmic, just in case.
Well, that's a lot to get through. Okay?
That is a lot to get through. I love it.
That's a lot of D6 rolls to either evade or to not even be targeted or to reduce. I mean, that's and then you've got a prob too, so you can affect their initial attack.
And like he said, they could still Pulse Wave, but he never let them get the single target Pulse Wave.
The only thing I got to fear there is a Nick, and a Nick can't take away everything. A Nick, I mean, it's obviously the highest pointing figure, so he's going to do extra damage, get the extra attack, and Impervious gets knocked out the door. So I've got invincibility, shape change, and super senses. Well, he's going to take away invincibility. So that means I've got a shape change roll and a super sense roll minimum.
So what with Goblin King, what did you find the two powers were that you were picking most frequently?
Well, to play the Goblin King proper, you have to think ahead. For example, if I was setting up for an attack, I would pick sidestep and invincibility. Okay, so what that did is it gave me, if I picked it this turn and I didn't, and I sidestepped up and I'm sitting there, next turn I still have the beginning of my turn I still have those powers.
Yeah.
So now I pick, say, sidestep, and I sidestep up, and then I pick. Then what I'm going to do is usually what I do is I did a call in. I would sidestep up to be closer. Then I would do a call in, and after my call in was done, I would go back to my defenses and I would pick, say, invincibility and super senses. So in reality, if you think ahead, Goblin King gets 4 pick-a powers the following turn. You get the powers that you ended with, and then you get the new powers that you pick.
Yep.
Wow.
So so going into how was your strategy going into U.S. Nationals, as far as what did you think you were going to be doing with the team, and then how did that change after Nationals to prepare for Worlds? Any differences in those two strategies, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I don't think that I was there. The strategy was different. I just think I was more honed in. Now I've got play experience. I know how to position my team better, and I know what I'm facing most times, and I know where to attack it, and I know what they're going to do. There's a lot. I faced a lot of Jakeem / Goblin. It's probably the most common thing that I saw was Jakeem with a Goblin King at the lower point value. Every time I faced that team, I killed his Goblin King in one shot. Every single time. And when that happens, if I've got my team and Goblin King against your Jakeem, you're going to lose, I believe. Which is pretty much what happened. You can't do enough damage to my Goblin King to take me out in one shot, and usually I was able to get in position to pulse wave, and it's just bad. Once you take out Goblin King, the other thing there's two things that usually were deciding. I guess I would say 3 points that were a lot of deciding in the game. The guy that threw their tank first often found themselves in a hole. If they threw their tank at my team, they took out a little bit, but they just got a few points. But I got 50 points off their team, and I went right back up on top. Well, now he's in a bad situation. He's got no tank, and he's down in points, and he's got to come across and try to figure out how to get points on my team to make it up. It's difficult. The other thing that was very important is and actually I will tell you that I made an error in the championship game, and I called him, and that's Cosmic Spidey. Cosmic Spidey at the lower point value is great, and it's needed, but if the other team can counter back, Cosmic Spidey can be one shot pretty easily. So that was I made that mistake. I went up on points in the finals, and I wanted to take out his barrier piece, and I called him Cosmic Spidey and missed, and he one-shotted my Cosmic Spidey, and that was bad. Now I'm down on points again. If I would have just left that alone, I would have forced him to come at me, and I was in a much better defensive posture than he was. So anyway, Cosmic Spidey could change the game because of what he can do and also being taken out. Usually, generally, when anybody called in Cosmic Spidey, I was able to kill their Cosmic Spidey right off the bat. And the Goblin King at 75 points, I pretty much could take that out every single time. There was always a way. And those were the big determining points. And then you face the oddball teams, and you just have to learn to adapt and do your thing. I had teams that were alpha strike on me, but they never could do enough damage. My team was built to, I could take damage and I'm still in the game. You could take some of my pieces out, I'm still in the game. That was the focus of my team. Okay, come on over. All right, yep, you hit me. You got 30 points. All right, now I'm about to hit you back, and I'm going to hit you harder than you hit me.
So, so did you feel during nationals? You talked a little bit about the nationals and your experience there during the World Championship Swiss. Were there any moments in any games where there were just really close calls, or one attack roll one way or the other could have swung the entire game in a different direction? Any of those moments that were there?
Well, again, the secret to my team was resiliency, and the fact that if I did miss with an attack, that I was not in the situation. All right, there's a lot of alpha strike teams out there, and you know what I mean by this. Whether it's an alpha strike at the beginning of the game or in the middle of the game, but when you make an alpha strike, you've left yourself out to dry. In other words, if you miss, you're out to dry, and if you miss, you've lost the game. Okay, my alpha strikes, I never lost the game, even if I missed. I was still alive, so I never felt like the game was in the balance there. The only way that the game would ever be in a balance, if I was in a situation where they could take Goblin King, and that very rarely happened. In the championship, if anybody watched it or know about it, Matt could have easily won the game had he hit my Goblin King, but he missed. And if he hits Goblin King right there, that was the closest that I got to actually losing a match that I felt like was in the balance. I lost a couple of matches on during my run at Worlds, but they were close matches, and one was a meaningless match that I flipped around the next time I played him. I'm pretty good at, when I play somebody, figuring out how to beat them the next time. So he won a very close match earlier where I made a mistake, thinking that he couldn't get to me, and Goblin King was down, and I chose not to regen. I chose instead to pass, and he came over and single target pulse wave, not single target pulse waves, but multi target pulse wave, and won the game. So I knew his strategy, I knew how he did things, and it didn't. And the next game was a lot different, and it was in my favor, and it wasn't nearly as close. So that's what I'm saying. That when you play nationals, and when you even Worlds, while I was still playing it, I was getting better and better every game. Every game, everything that I was doing, I was getting better each time. You play different maps, and you start getting a comfort zone on certain maps where you want to be, a little comfortable place. So you play different teams, and you kind of know what you got to do. I mean, I remember playing a Faust team, and I literally couldn't do anything for probably half the game. And he was like picking me apart, little things. He couldn't do anything Goblin King, but he kept just picking me apart. But then I finally got my chance, and Faust was gone in one turn, and that was it. That's what you have to be patient when you play Faust, and you have to be able to take a licking and get yourself in position. That's it. I mean, you just learn.
So that brings me to my next question, which is, who gave you the stiffest competition of the weekend? Was it Matt, which I was implied earlier, or somebody else particularly that you had a real struggle with?
Matt was. There's two games that stand out that I felt like were really tough. And I'm not discrediting Matt at all, but I hate that team that he plays. Okay, and it's not, and I'm not discrediting him on his gameplay. He played it, but it's a team that just sits there and makes you come to him. He takes a spot on. He takes a spot on the map. He wins map roll. He takes a spot on the map. You can't throw the PIM tank at him. You have to get into you have to get into his range to be able to hit him, and he just sits there and he rolls fouls. And if his foul throws are bad, you can get up there, but when you're up there, now you're in a fight. So that's his team, and I'm not discrediting. I'm not saying it's a bad team. I'm just saying I hate that team. I hate that style. I hate that style of play. And honestly, there was another team that I will say that's just like it strategy wise, and it also won Worlds, and that was Patrick's team with Iron Pharaoh.
Okay.
He set back. He won map row, and he used the Green Lantern battery on this map to block where you couldn't get to him. He set his Pharaoh back, and he had a little figure called Laura who could hypersonic speed in and out if you got close, and his Falcon chased you all over the map. You could not get to him. You could not close combat him. You could not pulse wave him. You could not really do anything to him. And I hate teams like that. I hate teams that just sit there that you can't attack.
Do you think that this falls under the category of turtle teams?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay.
And I just don't like that. I don't mind if you throw a little bit of barrier up, and there's ways to get around barrier. Which I'll go back into that. I was talking about my team building. When I was building my team, like I said, it was 2 weeks prior. At that time, we did not know Cosmic Spidey existed. Okay, and we were anticipating a lot of barrier teams, and there were some there, but they weren't. We thought that we would see Green Lanterns. Not Green Lanterns, Green Lanterns, double barriers and triple barriers. We thought we would see that. But what happened, my original team had Superman ID call in and the Nick Fury call in ID. But I had Superman and I had him because he also could run through barriers. Everybody was thinking that's what we were going to see. When Cosmic Spidey came out, that all changed. And I also think that some people changed their teams at the end because of barrier. I think that we didn't see as much barrier because barrier was pointless, because Cosmic Spidey made it pointless. Now you can be attacked straight through. What's the point of spending 35 points for a barrier that doesn't mean anything? So that was one of the changes. I meant to touch on that earlier that happened kind of towards the end, where I think the meta really changed drastically. The meta changed probably more than I've ever seen it change in probably a month period.
I was going to say those last 2 weeks, it was like...
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, well, I mean, what you had... First, you had the new set... A few new sets came out, and then they were retiring figures. So that was the first thing. It's like, okay, all these figures are out. All this stuff is out. Now I got to build a team without it. Then you had a brand new set come in, and you were planning on. We saw some of the stuff being with we knew what some of the stats were in some of them, so we started working that in, and then the sets released. It's like, oh my God, we didn't see this, and Spider-Man. I've never seen anybody play a Spider-Man ID card. Everybody had them this weekend.
What I was surprised to not see was. Oh my God! It came out of What If? Peace Machine, because so many people lost their mind over that piece when it was revealed.
Well, let me go there. You know what my team was, and when we started playtesting, my good buddy Warren, he came over to the house. And I said, Warren, this is what I got. Look at this, and it was my original team. So this is what I want to go with. I like it. I've been thinking about it and chewing on it and blah. I said, but here are alternatives. I said, I've got alternatives to everything. What do you think? Okay, those alternatives were, I was looking at possibly, now what I'd have to do is I'd have to pull something off my team, of course. But I was looking at entities, possibly putting them on Goblin King. I didn't think I needed them, but I was looking at it. Could have even got more stuff by putting an entity on him. I was looking at I was looking at Peace Machine. I was looking at Jean Grey.
Yep.
I was looking at Ameridroid instead of the Atom. Yeah,
And your son used Ameridroid too.
Yeah, some people did. I thought about it, but I like the Atom better. And when I weighed everything out, what I was looking at are things like this. All right, in my opinion, the best offensive TKer out there, and I'm a big proponent of TKing, guys. My son will tell you that ever since I've been playing, I usually, when I can, I have TK on my team, or at least access to it. It's just something that I do. It just stretches the range out so much. So offensively, Jean Grey's the best TKer out there. Okay, oh, yeah. But it's 50 points. The best defensive TKer out there is Peace Machine, because it limits the damage. It has TK, has some other things, and it's hard to hit. And I chose the middle path by choosing Mercury. I chose Mercury because I thought Mercury was in between both of them, in between the offense and defense, and the fact that it could still get something out there, and it had and Mercury's got super senses, but it's cheaper. It's only 25 points, so it enables me. I mean, do I want to have Ironheart and Mercury, or do I want to just have Jean Grey, or do I just want to have Peace Machine? So that's why I opted the way that I did. But I mean, there's a lot of things I was looking at on my team. So Warren and I, we play tested it, and we did it, and the team did really well when we play tested it. And he says, you just need to run with what you got. And Warren was the last piece of my puzzle. I'm putting the final parts of my team. Although I will tell you that all those pieces that I could have played, I took with me, just in case I changed my mind.
Good man.
So as you're winning matches in World Swiss, and you make the top cut, and you're slowly creeping up, and your record's getting better and better, was there a point where you realized that you could go all the way?
When you play in these matches, it's not important to me. It never has been important to me to be the top seed. I think that's irrelevant. If you have a good team and you're a good player, all you want to do is make the cut. If you make the cut, it's a whole nother tournament. So all I cared about was making the cut. Once you make the cut, everybody's got a chance. Maybe your dice get hot. Maybe you just play well, or maybe some of both. So it's all about making the cut. When I made the cut, and I actually already knew I made the cut going into my last game, my record in points was good enough. I knew that I was in the cut, and my last game of Swiss, I knew I was there. I'm sitting on table 4 with the 1 loss. You know you're not going to drop to 33rd. So I felt really, 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 really good. So yeah, I also knew that nobody had absolutely destroyed my team, that all my losses I could have won. They were all close, and my wins were, and I was ready. I was at that point, and when we made it to the singles cut, I'd seen every team that was there. I knew how to play every team that was there. I knew what my team. I was ready, and I felt like I could win it. And what I would tell you is that feeling of playing in that environment is very similar to sports when I played it. It's kind of like you get into there and you start playing, and it's almost surreal. I remember playing softball tournaments to like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and we would start playing, and it would be really noisy there, and there'd be a bunch of teams, and you're just playing and playing and playing, and all of a sudden you look up and you notice that you're by yourself, and it's just like, wow, how did this happen? And that's the same feeling that I had there, is that I just kept playing, and all of a sudden I was there. I was by myself.
Wow. So if winning Worlds by yourself wasn't enough, your son Easton and your friend Warren played in the Team Worlds Championship. What did you guys play for that?
What figures?
Yeah.
We were very fortunate, and what I want to say there is that there's a lot of good teams, a lot of good players that play in Team Worlds. We feel like we're one of those, Warren and Eastern and I. And we started, this is our third time competing as a team. Eastern and I, of course, have played forever together, and I know his style, and he knows my style. And Warren's a very good friend of mine, and I know his style. We know his style too. We competed in the Rock Cup in teams last year, and we finished second. And we played in the Worlds last year, and we finished fifth. And both the teams that last year, that the figures that we played with, both at the Rock Cup and at Worlds last year, were good teams, but not great teams. Great figures, if you understand. A good / great player can navigate a good team by his play and still win. And I felt like that's what we did the last couple of shots. This year, we got the God Pool. And what I mean is that we just had a fabulous, when we pulled it and laid it out on the table, we felt like with our skill that we should be in the finals. We didn't know what everybody else pulled, but we knew what we pulled, and we felt like we should be in the finals. And that we felt that way. We felt like we had a shot. We had like a legitimate shot. When we pulled our other stuff, we thought, oh, this is good. Let's play it. We're going to do the best we can. This one, when we pulled it, we're like, hey, this is awesome. We can go all the way with this. So, Warren, when we built our teams, we quickly analyze the teams, and we always look at the things that we can put together. You look at theme. If you can build a theme team, that's really good, really helpful. We look at, because you get the map rolls, you get prob, all those kind of things. So theme is always important. When you pull 6 boosters, you oftentimes can build a theme. And in this particular case, you had a lot of shifting focus. So shifting focus was something that was looked at. Where are all your shifting focus pieces? How many do you have? What can you do with them? Blah blah blah. And then you look at how the teams can play together. So we pulled a hell of a lot of Black Panthers and Wakandas. So that ended up being a team, and we had shifting focus Black Panthers with Wakanda Warriors, and one of the figures that Warren was playing with had the ability to bring in more Wakanda Warriors, and they all gave each other bonuses and all kinds of stuff. So that was one team, and that style fit Warren. It actually could have fit Easton also, but Warren ended up with that team, and it was a really crazy team. If you saw pictures of it, he'd have like there were moments where he'd have like 10 Wakandas, Black Panthers, all huddled together on part of the map.
Wow.
And a lot of outwit, a lot of charge, a lot of blades. That team performed really well. Easton, I think, picked the best. He was lucky enough to get the best figure. And by the way, that Wakanda team had a super rare Black Panther on it also. So he had one super rare over there.
Wow.
All right. So Easton got what I thought was the best pull, the best piece that you could pull in this set, and that was a Man-Thing. So he got Man-Thing, but on top of that, he had shifting focus Doctor Strange, and using the Defender ability, and the re-roll on the dice, which made it even harder to hit Man-Thing, who's just a beast by himself.
That's fantastic. I'm being defended by Doctor Strange. Re-roll that die.
He had something else. I can't remember what it was, but those two things were he had a Hulk. He also had a Hulk that was being carried around that also was a defender. So he had a defender team. So that was real nasty. Now my pool, so Easton had one super rare. All right, my team had 2 super rares in the chase. So, like I said, when I told you we made the God pool, I wasn't kidding. I had a Valkyrie, and a Black Knight.
Wow.
And I also had a grenade launcher Punisher, and I had a Karen. What's her name? Karen Page.
Mm-hmm.
That moving up to, if you get within 3 squares of the opposing character, all my characters got a +1 attack, and she also could be pushed into perplex. So now all my stuff has got a +1 attack because I moved her up. She's got sidestep and move it, and she can walk. And anytime before I made attack, she was always getting in their face. And she's only, well, I think she's 15 points, and nobody really wanted to attack her. It's like you waste a turn to attack her.
Yeah.
So I had her, and last but not least, I had Captain America, the female Captain America, that when you carry can make an attack.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I've got Valkyrie and Black Knight running through you, carrying Captain America, dropping Captain America off, and then doing another attack. So, and also Captain America has perplex. So I had a good team. That's all I can say. I mean, it's not hard to figure that out. I had a very, very good team. Honestly, I lost my first game. I lost my first game and didn't lose another. I lost my first game to Mike, and I can't remember what Mike's last name is right now. I don't know why, but I lost him. I had some bad dice rolls, and he had some real good dice rolls. I crippled him really, really, really hard, and I feel like I should have won the game, but I didn't. So he won that game, but I didn't lose another one after there. I had the 2 most interesting games that I had after that would probably be the last 2 games. One where I faced Isaac, and then I faced PJ.
Wow. I was playing Battle Royales with Isaac yesterday and his dad. So I want to ask you, since we were talking about, sport, being in sports, physical sports in relation to this, and me reading a lot of things that people are complaining about themselves, their performance over the weekend, they kept having fatigue, and they made play mistakes, and the next thing they knew, they were out. So what is your method for avoiding that gaming fatigue over a long weekend?
I've never really had a problem with fatigue when I'm playing. I feel like, have you guys ever went to a casino? I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been to some casinos, but I can't recall that I've ever gambled.
Okay. Well, I don't go to them much anymore, but went back at the time when my eyes got real big when we used to go there. I used to play craps, and I used to play blackjack, and when I would play craps or blackjack, it just seems like you'd start playing, and then you'd look up and the sun was up. You'd play that night, and then all of a sudden it's like, how in the heck did it get to be 6 in the morning? You lose track of time. You're focused on the game. You forget everything. And to me, that's the way Heroclix is to me. I just kind of forget all that. But you do have to take care of yourself. You have to go to bed at a fairly reasonable hour. You don't have to go to bed at 8 o'clock or anything like that. But if you stay up to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you're probably not going to do that well. So my routine has always been to try to go to sleep, go to get in bed at reasonably, but still have fun, because part of going conventions is that we like to go out with groups and go to the local restaurants and hang out with them, and we always have a good time. And that's when we look back. My wife and I look back at conventions. That's what we do. We look back at that and we remember. I generally prepare for the next day that night. When I finally get in my hotel room, I lay everything out. I put everything in the bag. I don't like in the next morning to be trying to find things. When I play in events, like in rock events, I usually will have my team sheet printed out. I usually will do it online and print it and have it ready to go for the next day, so I don't have to be worrying about that in the morning. So then we get up, and we usually go and get a little bite to eat, and then we go in and we try to be there. I like to be there 30 to 45 minutes early, so I'm sitting there and not pressured and getting woke up. And I always take a 5-hour energy. Always do. Every tournament, right when it starts, I take the 5-hour energy.
Okay, now we know the real secret.
Yeah.
That little extra kick.
Absolutely.
I know that Team Rubicon, when they go to Worlds, they have one guy on the team that he doesn't even play. He just provides drinks and snacks and foods for the guys that are playing in the tournament.
He's their water boy. I love it. He's their support unit.
Yeah, he is. And,
well, we fortunately have 2 wonderful women that go when we go to the conventions that do that for us. My wife, who I'm blessed with because she lets me do what I want to do, but not only does that, but she enjoys it. She and I'm very blessed. She loves football, beer, and nerd stuff.
Wow!
Oh my God! Talk about trifecta.
I guess that's very lucky. I can't even say the same thing about my wife. I've had to educate her on all things geekery, and fortunately she actually likes some of it, but definitely not all of it. So.
My wife I don't have to push her to go see a superhero movie. She's pushing me to go get it. Star Wars, Star Trek, all that stuff. We're members of Gamma. She's going to the trade show and getting all the free stuff there.
Wow.
When we need something, my son, which you guys may or may not know, during was it Worlds or Nationals? It was Nationals. He was sick as a dog. He was puking.
Oh,
actually, no, no, wait a minute. I take it back. It was during Worlds. He was sick as a dog. He was puking all day, and when they gave us a break to go to finals, he'd taken off and went to the room and laid down, and I went to get him, and I was worried. When we got up to leave, he was puking, and I wouldn't leave him, and I was worried about us getting back on time. We made it, but we didn't make it by much. He was really, really sick, and he played through it.
Wow. So now that you've won Worlds, you're on the team that's won Worlds. Probably the most asked question is, what figures are you guys going to make, and what figure are you going to make?
Well, honestly, it's not something I've put thought into it before, but every time I've thought of something that I wanted to make, they went and made it. And for example, I remember a few years ago I was telling everybody if I ever won Worlds, I want to make a spiral, and I had an idea. It wasn't the spiral that they made, but I had an idea of using spiral because I liked the spiral from way on back out of the Fantastic Four set that had Charge and Flurry and Copycat, and it was all those blades, and we had not had one in a while. And then they went and made a spiral. And then I was thinking about a Daredevil for a while because I didn't feel like Daredevil had ever been justly made. And then they went and made a bunch of them.
A million Daredevils.
Yep. And so I just really hadn't put any thought into it. I'm not one of those guys that want to just go and find a figure that's never been clixed and make it. I mean, not that I wouldn't do that if I had something, but I'm just saying that that's not what it's about to me. And I said this during the match or after the match. WizKids interviewed me. They said, "What would you want to make?" And I said, "I haven't put thought into it." I said, "But my 2 favorite characters on each side of the spectrum is Thor and Superman."
Ooh.
Well, Superman has been made many times over, and I don't even know where I would go with that if I wanted to make one. Thor, if I was going to make a Thor, I would go back to the Thor that I read in the comic books when I was a kid, which is when he was in Asgard and fighting all different kinds of stuff. I really ate all that stuff up.
Like the Walter Simonson Thor? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I mean, I remember him carrying around Sif, going through Asgard with his hammer, and you had all the Asgardian characters. That I liked that Thor. I liked all those stories. And
right. I mean, was this when he was like beating up the giant serpent that he was destined to fight?
Yeah, all of that in there.
Okay, I love that Thor. That's the Thor I want him to make.
So but then we got a Thor set coming out. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense. So the next thing that I came up with, I went to bed that night and I said, why not make a Captain America that does what Hawkeye does, but close combat? In other words, Hawkeye has the chase Hawkeye. He's able to run and shoot. He has precision strike. And if he hits, he does it again and again and again and again. As long as he can keep attacking a different character. And I'm like, it'd be really cool to make a Captain America that charges in there, ignores characters, has precision strike, and then gets to charge again, then charge again, and then charge again. And that was what I was going to bed thinking about. But then, like I told everybody else, is that something really cool happened and we won Team Worlds. And when we did that, all of a sudden there's 2 characters out there that can be made. And so we right off the bat decided that we wanted to make 2 characters, one that was mine and one that was ours, but we wanted the characters to work together. We wanted to have, we want to do something unprecedented, and we want to have 2 characters that work together. So we got up the next morning. My son came up with an idea, and I don't want to share it yet. I don't want to name the characters, but we have something that is not that has been clicked, but not overly clicked, and that most people like. And we want to wait and talk to WizKids. We ran it by a few WizKids people, telling them what we wanted to do, and they liked it. But we got to wait to talk to the design team and see what our restrictions are. But we think that this will work. We think that they will let us make this, and it's not crazy. It will be. We think that it will be played. We think that it will be meta. And we think that it will be cool.
Can you give us a hint, maybe what universe it comes from?
I was going to ask for that.
Or what comic books maybe we've seen these characters in?
I don't want well, it's DC, and you've seen them in a lot of comic books.
Okay.
Yes!
I'm excited because I'm a big DC fan.
Me too, so I'm in.
But that's as much as I want to say until we got it. And like I said, we've got a pretty good idea. We 3 have got to sit down again. I've actually want to put it down on paper and run it by, because we've been working it. We sat down before Warren went home to Florida. He came to my house and we sat down on the couch and we talked about it and ran ideas by each other, and we all got different ideas. Some really, really cool ideas. I think everybody's going to like. I hope. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like it.
You know what duo I would love? I mean, not to just butt in my 2 cents, but Simon and Jessica have been running around as Green Lanterns together. They have their own title. I would love them as a duo. But also, I'm such a huge Legion fan. I never feel like we have enough Legion. Mm-hmm. I would probably pick 2 Legionnaires if I was in such a position. It'd be like Ultra Boy and Phantom Girl, or Lightning Lad and Lightning Lass, because they're brother and sister and got their powers together. So, I'm sure you went in a very different direction than my imagination. But I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it'll be unique, and that's what we want. We want it to be unique, and I think that both pieces can be played together, and I think separately. I think that's what our idea is. So that's going to be cool.
Well, it's very exciting. We can't wait to hear what they are, and we can't wait to see what they do. And unfortunately, it'll probably be at least a year before they get released. But
or we hear about them. Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, I want to. I don't. The other thing is I want to know what WizKids will let us say about the characters before we say anything else. We can tell people who they are, but not what they do. I don't know.
Right.
I want to. And they may not even let us do what we want to do. We don't know yet. So we're waiting to talk to them, and then we'll know what we can say and can't say.
Well, I know because I used to play locally with Alex Avila before his figure before his Stargirl came out in Superman and the Legend of Superheroes, in the Legion of Superheroes. And I remember he couldn't tell us anything about the figure other than who it was.
Right.
And I think he described the sculpt. Like he could say, oh, it'll look like this from this panel. But other than that, I mean, he really couldn't tell us anything about the figure. because of his agreements with WizKids and whatnot, which was fine. And then, you know, the figure came out and it was pretty cool. It worked well with, I think, David Kane. And so that was a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll at least be able to know who it is, and we can get excited and speculate and have some fun with that. So
that's what we're hoping that they tell us. And I think that if we're able to name the characters, I think it's going to be fun and watching people speculate on what the dials are going to be and what they do and everything. I think it'll be pretty interesting.
Do you because I know that when they design these figures and stuff, they you tell them kind of what the powers are that you want, and then they calculate the point range, you know, of the character or the point value. Is there a point range that you're hoping for with these figures?
I don't want to say the point range because that might be giving away something that I shouldn't, but I want to say that we want the figures to be able to be played and be on people's teams.
In a 300-point game?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, Howard, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Before you go, do you want to talk about anything else, or are there any shout-outs that you want to give?
Well, I think I've already praised them, but I'd praise them again, and that would be my son and Warren, which was funny when we were playing the championship. I think they were trying to win it for me, and I was trying to win it for Warren. So, I mean, we all won it for each other. And I wanted to win it for my son, too. But, I mean, Warren, I wanted to win it for them. They wanted to win it for me. And we all won it together. And then, of course, to his fiancee, Leslie, and my wife, who patiently take care of us with enthusiasm the whole time, anytime we do anything.
Yeah. And I guess that brings me back to what we love about this game, because, you know, there's the competition level, there's fantastic prizes, but it is the bonds we make.
It is, and it's the people. I was just thinking in the middle of this, you know, why are our team, you know, competitions, you know, the ROC has them, WizKids does them, Magic even has team events. And the reason why these exist and why they're popular is because you get to play you get more connected with teammates, and you're playing together. And that's really what any game is about, and especially this is just being able to play together and experiencing, you know, the victories and the losses together, and, you know, even going to the championships together. And it's all about those experiences and being together and the people that you play with. So
I agree.
It is.
So again, Howard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
we
you,
really
sir.
appreciate it, and
it was great.
We hope to talk to you sometime in the future.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you very much.
Take care, Howard.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
So that was our interview with Howard Brock, the 2017 Heroclix World Champion, and one of the partners of the 2017 Heroclix Team World Champion, along with Warren Jin and Easton Brock. Thank you so much for watching. Next week we'll be back. Cliff will be back. We'll recap what we read in comic books, what we watched in superhero media, and what we played in Heroclix. So thanks again. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you next week.